Hey there, it's Christian from 7 Gaming Network, and I wanted to do a video this time. I'm quite excited. I wanted to talk about this feeling, this idea that for me Destiny has very recently, it's come of age. We've had a number of sets now where, so we've had 3 sets have come out, plus the 2-player starter, and all the way through we've been able to enjoy a fun game. Okay, there's been a couple of card design issues which have caused us to have to endure a certain meta now and again, but what we have had is a fun year. But all throughout I've had this sort of question nagging in the back of my mind, like, where is this going? Is all we're going to experience a new set comes out, we re-evaluate everything that's gone before, we build some new constructed decks trying to work out what the best is out of this collective single pool, and that just keeps on going until at some point there is the dreaded word rotation, and suddenly we lose a whole bunch of cards, and it just doesn't feel like that's a cool outlook for something like a CCG. Not when we compare it to other great CCGs out there, for instance games like Magic. No matter how you think about it, 10 million people playing it and all the rest can't be wrong. So I really feel like in the last month all of these sort of questions and concerns of mine have been answered, and they've been answered really, really well. So firstly, let's talk about the RRG. The RRG dropped as a result of some of the stuff that was released from the 2-player starter and EAW, and brought about a number of changes. Now, of course, this is the first one that I'm not going to talk ages about this, because you can get detailed reports from lots of other podcasts and so on about this. But the thing I want to point out is that we have lost Lucas. Lucas is a previous lead designer, and he has created a marvellous game for us. There's no two ways about it. Destiny is a cracking game in terms of its mechanics. However, there was some issues with some of the card design. Now what we see is that Jeremy has come in, and he has, I have to say, covered himself in glory with this first thing that he's taken the lead on and done in the world of Destiny for us. Because what his changes have brought about have created the very best meta that we have had, I think, and this is echoed by a lot of people I've played the game with or know in the rest of the community, that this has been the best meta that we've had at any point. The Awakenings meta was brilliant, it was great fun, but this has the feel of Awakenings and everything's a little bit slower. However, we've got all these cards to play with, and it really does feel like at the moment changing just those few things, as it should be with a well-designed game, changing just a few things has created a massively open meta, and of course over time I'm sure some decks will start to rise to the top, but it's taking a while. Listen, if you found a deck that is just taking on all comers and winning, then let us know, because the community doesn't really seem to know which is the best. You can say Sabine Ezra, it is nowhere near as consistent as decks like Poe Maz were, or some of the ones that have just really dominated in previous metas. So it isn't just a case of doing some changes. Going forwards, the game of Destiny being in the hands of Jeremy is good, because he knows what to change and how much to change it. This is a guy who clearly understands all the mechanics involved in games. You don't win 5 world championships in different games without understanding that. And I really feel like if you've got good lead design on a game, you might say this is really obvious, but then going forward it's going to be considerably healthier. And we have to trust our designers, and if they're giving us reasons to trust in them, like this RRG and the changes that have been made, then I think we're going to do very nicely with Jeremy for a little while. Thank you very much. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is that we are having a limited format. Guys, the announcement of a limited format for Destiny is huge, absolutely gigantic, for several reasons. But in terms of the long-term health of a game, I think having a limited format is one of those essential building blocks. If a game is going to be around for any length of time, if a game is going to survive and be brilliant and grow and get better, it has to have a good limited format. And it sounds like we've got two good limited formats. I'm really looking forward to doing sealed, really excited about draft as well. Now, the reason why is if you only have constructed formats for a CCG, then or a card game, then you can get into this mindset of, I have to own all the cards. I don't know how the meta's going to change, and if I really want to be competitive, I have to own all the cards. Therefore, I have to buy a lot of product, that costs a lot of money, and it creates this sort of pressure on you that I've got to funnel all of my money into this game, otherwise I'm just going to fall behind. I'm not going to be able to play all the decks that I want to be able to play or adjust to the meta and so on and so forth. And I've seen it quite a bit in my local meta, and I've seen it in other areas then. People feel pressured to keep up with new stuff that comes out. And then when new stuff comes out, everyone's scrabbling around going, oh crap, I need to find money, I need to buy this, I need to buy that. And that's not a lot of fun when you're feeling like that. So we've lost some players from our community as a result. Now, what a limited format will do is it takes the pressure off this having to own all the cards. There will be a large number of people who can now very comfortably play Destiny only through limited format. They know that all they have to drop is the 15 quid or whatever it's going to cost to get their rivals pack, and then they spend as much or as little as they like doing a sealed deck whenever they fancy it, or a draft whenever they fancy it, and they can much more easily control their involvement in Destiny. They are still playing Destiny, they are still getting absolutely as much out of Destiny as any of us can be, because they might want to play limited real special. They might want to spend more on limited if that's their thing. The difference is that this is giving us options, and that's what's really powerful in the health of a game going forward. People can choose how to engage with the game, how they want to play, and how much they want to spend on it. I think as well that limited will maintain then more people in the game, because you will get people who will enjoy Destiny more through limited than through constructed, and they can play it for more cheaply. Brilliant. They're going to stay around in a game that previously they would have just left, and that's fine. They're a limited player, sealed decks, whatever. Amazing. They're playing Destiny, they're involved, they're buying product, they're going to tournaments, they're winning cool stuff. Absolutely. And what Magic does really well is it gives us higher profile, and lots of other TCGs give us higher profile to the limited play and the sealed deck type stuff as they do to the constructed play, and I think that's really important again for the health of the game. It will also keep more people able to play and hook more people in, because it's cheaper for beginners to get into, or a cheap way for beginners to get into. The other thing as well is for vets. Hey, you guys know the rules. You decide I need to sell my collection because I don't know, I'm going to pay the rent this month or something like that. It doesn't matter, at any point you can dip a toe back into Destiny. Yeah, I'll do a draft, I'll do a sealed deck tournament. Next thing you know, you're hooked again. Oh, I've forgotten how much I love this game. I haven't played it for 6 months or whatever. I'm going to get back into it. And I think you'll have quite a lot of people over the life of Destiny, however long that is, who will have that sort of cyclical thing. They might be all about it for 6 months, they might take a bit of time out. Oh, I'll just do a little bit limited play. Am I really enjoying Destiny still? What's the current card pool like? Oh, there's some cool stuff in this card pool. I'm going to get back into the game. So, and of course, for those of us who are mad about Destiny, it gives us a lot more variety. How you play is very different in limited. You have so many more things to, it teaches you to appreciate cards differently, to evaluate how powerful a card is, and I think it'll make us better constructed players. It'll certainly make us better deck builders, because that's a fundamental part of doing limited play, is you've got to deck build as you open your cards. So limited format is huge for long-term health of this game. Now another thing that's been really, really good is the new constructed formats. This is the most recent announcement for Destiny. So now we know that our cards will always be playable with and will always be valuable. That's big. A lot of people have been worried about investing in Destiny because they're worried that their cards will just come to a point where they rotate out and they won't be able to play with them anymore. With the announcement of the 3 different formats, one of which of course is infinite, that's not going to be the case. Any card we ever buy will always be playable with because we've got the infinite format. That's really exciting. That is really good news. If you look at vintage in Magic, those cards are valuable. They've been around a long time. We don't know how long Destiny's going to go for. Hopefully for many, many years. To think that the cards that those of us who bought in Awakenings and invested in, or just this first cycle, that they're essentially going to increase in value as they become harder and harder to find over the years to come. That's really great. It's brilliant news for those of us who are collectors and love trying to have those legendary cards that, you know, might be worth large amounts of money. Really cool. That, again, brilliant for the health of the game, for like a secondary market in the game, and so on and so forth. So I think Infinite's really great. Our cards are always going to be valuable. Then of course they've announced Standard. Now Standard is going to operate rotation. Oh, what a negative word so many people feel about this. The difference is that rotation in a CCG is fundamentally different to how it's been handled in LCGs, and most of us again have an understanding of card games through our interaction with LCGs. An LCG format naturally means that there comes a point where anyone who wants to start playing the game has got such a massive buy-in because of all the releases over the previous years that you don't get any new blood in the game. That's no good. They bring in rotation to manage that. Oh, brilliant. A whole bunch of us who have been with the game for ages have now just lost a whole load of cards. That's our mindset about rotation. In a CCG and in Destiny, that's not how it's going to work because we've got Infinite. So we will always be able to play with our cards. They will always be valuable and usable. It's an absolutely different understanding and way to play the game and way to distribute these cards. Standard is going to mean we have more of a focused play. It's going to be easy to balance. It's going to be easier to control, and it will mean that you will get, I think, that Destiny play that we really love. Those games that last 15-20 minutes, have a nice to and fro from them, and the odd game that goes that little bit longer. We will be able to have, I think it'll work out to be up to 6 sets. That's 2 years of play. I mean, if you told a Magic player that they could get 2 years of play, you know, for Standard, like, that's Standard. Maybe that's why they call it Standard. That's what we would expect. It's good value for money to be able to buy a card and know you can use it for the next 2 years if it's from the latest set. And then of course, even then when they rotate out, they take on infinite, you know, infinite status, you know, of Venerable Legend. Oh, that was a great card in that, and now it's passed into infinite and we can be using it in that. Really cool. And there will be a very deep, rich, competitive environment in Standard because we can have, I think, up to 6 sets. So that's pretty deep. That's great. And then, of course, cherry on top, we've got Trilogy. Trilogy has got so many upsides. The big ones being you've got a smaller pool of cards, so therefore it's cheaper to get in on. You can put together a constructed deck that's going to, generally it's cheaper to build a smaller deck, a deck from a smaller pool of cards. It's brilliant for beginners. That's brilliant for returning vets. You have a go at doing a draft, you think, that was blinking brilliant, I've forgotten how good this game was. Do you know what? Yeah, I'll buy a few of the latest set. Oh, I'm close to having a good Trilogy deck here because I only need that card and that card to wear. And they're in. That's it. They're playing organised tournaments back in again. It means it can be very focused, very tightly controlled because they can put in specific mechanics into the sets. which means that we'll have a very sort of streamlined and very enjoyable set of cards to be playing with all the time, because it's very easy to manage that pool of cards. And I think it's going to be more thematic. We'll be playing with stuff that's probably being released based on latest films and things like that. And I play Destiny because it's chuffing Star Wars, and I'm playing with characters that I love, and it does come to life in my mind so very frequently, and I get so much more enjoyment out of the game because of it, and I think Trilogy will only help for that. So look, this has been a fairly unrelentingly positive post, because that's genuinely how I'm feeling with all of these changes that have been announced in the last month. Destiny has really come of age, and I for one am so looking forward to enjoying it for the next goodness knows how long. Anyway, that's the end of my excited rant, so until next time, keep enjoying your Destiny.